the special edition of the program for the love of Nigeria, of course, we are going to bring to you some development that happened recently in Nigeria, specifically Akwa Ibom State. Of course, this is nothing but the recently commissioned most important investment in sub-Saharan Africa. Of course, luckily for Nigeria, this investment surreptitiously such is will find its way into Nigeria, and of course, Akwa Ibom State to be very precise. And of course, today we are here to take a look at a retrospect, and of course, the commissioning proper, and of course, the future of this huge investment that is making waves across the continent as we speak. And we are talking about the recently commissioned Jubilee Syringe Manufacturing Company, GSM in short, that is located in Awalma, in Onamiko government area of Akwa Ibom State, the home state, or the hometown, if you like, of the present governor of Akwa Ibom State, Mr. Emmanuel. Of course, we are here to discuss with us, to take us into what happened, what actually transpired on this day. Having a perspective on today's special edition of the program is no other than the managing director of Jubilee Syringe Manufacturing Company. Of course, he's a Turkish-born businessman. We're talking about Mr. Zubaye Kulabi. Mr. Zubaye, you're most welcome to the platform.
Thank you, Mr. Zedler.
Pleased to have you on board. And of course, he's not here alone, as he is ably joined on this platform by no other person than a Turkish-born investor who has traversed the length and breadth of this world, monitoring proceedings as regard investment across different continents of the world. We are talking about Mr. Emir. Of course, he's going to tell us his full names, and of course, and then we'll take it off from there. So you're most welcome to the platform.
Thank you very much, Mr. Godwin.
Nigerians, Africans, and of course the world who are watching you at this point in time would like to meet you formally. Tell us your name.
Sure, Mr. Godwin. My name is Emir Kayaloglu. I'm one of the investors in Jubilee Syringe Manufacturing Company, together with my partners at VKS, and I represent the investment here.
Absolutely. Now, we will be taking straight away going into what actually transpired. But before we get to what transpired on the 23rd of September 2017, during the commissioning of this huge investment, which of course, during our inset, we are going to bring to you the sound and sights of what transpired in Akwa Ibom State on that fateful day. Stay tuned, watching the clips of how everything went down on this fateful day. Now, before we get to that point, let us start with Mr. Zubaye Kulabi. He's the managing director of this investment, huge investment, Jubilee Syringe. Now, sir, finally it's here. The much anticipated, the much talked about investment, talking about a syringe manufacturing company, which appears to be something that cannot be possible in this part of the world, is here. Of course, it's a reality.
Yes.
Tell us, how does this make you feel?
Yes, sir. This story started in 2015 between Mr. Kumar, is the mentor of the investors, and His Excellency Akwa Ibom State Governor Udom Emmanuel. Udom Emmanuel's industrialization policy made the state attractive for investors. And that is why Mr. Kumar gathered the investors together, and they made decision to invest in Akwa Ibom. And Mr. Emir's feasibility works, this story started before the papering job in 2015. And in 2016, in October, we put the foundation of the syringe factory, and thank God we commissioned the factory by His Excellency Vice President Professor Osibanjo in 24th of September, in 11 months. It is the record time in Nigeria for syringe industry. A syringe factory came up. That is the beginning.
Okay. Now, this is quite interesting for people that are watching us at this point in time, because Jubilee Syringe is a very huge investment. You agree with me?
Yes.
And of course, you stated clearly that the foundation stone was made in 2016,
Yes.
precisely a year ago.
Yes.
Precisely a year ago.
Yes.
And this is 2017. The investment is a reality.
Yes.
It's unprecedented.
Yes.
It has never happened in the history of this part of the world. And
Yes.
tell us the resources and, of course, the inspiration to get this done. How did this come about?
Yes, Mr. Kumar is in Akwa Ibom since more than 4 years, and he fell in love with the Akwa Ibom state people. And His Excellency Udom Emmanuel came into the power, and they built a good relationship, but not personal. It is the industrial relationship, business. State made itself attractive to come and invest in Akwa Ibom state. That is the reason why Akwa Ibom, actually. State policy. State policy is making state attractive, and this state has many big source of human capital, trained, educated, but unfortunately, because of there is no industry, they are jobless. We are happy to bring this opportunity for those educated people, engineers, mechanics, technicians, and we have huge human source.
Absolutely.
And of course, the raw material is very close to us from Port Harcourt to our village. It's 1 hour journey by the road. That is the two reasons. And in future, we know state government has the plan for making a port nearby us, by the shore. The future is very bright for exporting from the Nigeria to other part of the world and Africa. That is why future is very bright. If the port started in the future, our exporting will be very easy, and importing some of the materials will be very easy for us also. And state made community very friendly for us, and the security is intact. We don't have security problem, we don't have community problem. And community is very lovely. They embraced us as a friend, as a brother. We are very happy with them.
Mr. Emir, this is huge. You will agree with me. This is absolutely unprecedented. Nigeria as a country, probably maybe there had been some attempt to float an investment such as this, but it never saw the light of the day, probably because of sentiment, because of policies, and because of things that probably we cannot know. But this came on board 2016, and today's reality is huge from any angle you want to look at it. Tell us, in your own perspective, why is this a reality?
Absolutely. As Mr. Zubair said, we've been met with open arms from the moment we arrived. On a state level, His Excellency has been a great supporter of industrialization, as Mr. Zubair said, and on a federal level. Every conversation that we've had with the government, with the health ministry, they've been very supportive of our investment. And the reason is clear, because Nigeria needs domestic production. It relies too much on imported products, and we saw that opportunity, and we wanted to start somewhere where basic needs of Nigerians could be met easily. And syringe was a good example of this. As you said, it's unprecedented to from start to finish to have an investment realized within 11 months, and that could only be possible with the things that I've mentioned, with His Excellency's support and support at the federal level. But our vision is not limited to Nigeria, to be honest. We want to become, we are the largest syringe factory in Africa, and there's no reason why we can't be the largest supporter of the region. West Africa first, and rest of Africa second, and supplying syringes. If you look at neighboring countries, Cameroon, Ghana, Gabon, the Congos, all of them buy syringes from Europe at exorbitant costs. We're able to produce syringes at a fraction of the costs, at the same quality that Europeans are producing. We might be a Nigerian company, but we do hold international standards.
Absolutely.
And you will see that in the syringes that we produce. So we have no reason to believe that Nigeria can be a net exporter of syringes first, and hopefully other investments in the future.
Now, tell us the challenges you faced bringing this investment to Nigeria as a country, because you agree with me that this, except you want to tell us there was no challenge. But if there were challenges, what are those challenges?
Sure. Of course, there were challenges. Logistical problems were number one. As Mr. Zubair said, we're eagerly looking forward to a port in the state, close to us, so we can bring our raw materials easily. Second has been the availability of high quality raw materials, medical grade raw materials, because we would like to be differentiated from lower quality imported products, mainly from the Far East, who use low quality non-medical grade ingredients in their syringes. So availability of those products have been scarce, and finding those was difficult. But as Mr. Zubair said, we're in discussions with producers here to have medical grade raw materials available to us. Those are basically the main challenges. I mean, human capital, as Mr. Zubair said, has been no problem. There are highly educated people here that are willing to work, so that has been the least of our problems. And as I said, every challenge that we faced, we only had full support of His Excellency and the federal government.
Absolutely. Every challenges that we faced in the course of bringing this investment into reality, we had the support of the executive government for Akwa Ibom State, and of course, that of the federal government. Those are the sterling words of Mr. Emir, a Turkish-born investor who is here in Akwa Ibom State. Jubilee is finished to watch proceedings on the newly commissioned Jubilee Syringe Manufacturing Company here in Akwa Ibom State. Now, Mr. Zubair, recently during the commissioning of this investment, the president or the vice president said this was a very smart decision to make.
Yes.
Can you expand on this?
Yes, sir. Syringe is primary item for the health sector, and it means it is very strategic investments for Nigeria. That is why it is very smart, and we are trying to make the Akwa Ibom as a medical device hub, and His Excellency Vice President honored us to come and commission the factory. I think it was the first commissioning by the federal level.
Absolutely.
We are honored that one, and he told us he will support us in federal level in every incentive policies. We were very happy to hear this one from him. It was a good point for Akwa Ibom. Vice President came and commissioned this factory, and Jubilee is going to be frontier of the health sector, medical device sector in Nigeria, because our investment is huge and expanding capacity is big. In the future, we are planning to make Nigeria net exporter, like my investor said, in 3 years. We want Nigeria compete with other world-class manufacturers countries to in the world level of the market.
Now, something interesting, which of course Africans need to know at this point in time, is that South Africa, which was at the point in time the highest producer of syringes, peaked in production capacity at 93 million syringes per annum. Jubilee syringe, we understand, produces 300 million syringes, 350 to 400 million syringes
Exactly.
in 1 year.
Exactly.
Tell us, this is absolutely something we cannot talk about. Tell us.
I mean, look, if you look at the demand in Nigeria alone, there are estimates, there are no official studies of exact demand, but a conservative estimate is around 1 to 2 billion. There are estimates as high as 6 billion, which is minuscule if you look at our investment. I mean, 350 within that demand number is not a big number. What's important to state is we built this factory so that capacity can be doubled. So if you look at our injection machines, there's space for 8 more injection machines if we decide to double capacity. And again, the number that you mentioned is a conservative estimate by our count, because we are already starting to see that we can exceed that capacity with our machines and with our human capital.
Now, he talked about the raw material being acquired here in Nigeria. He said 1 hour drive from Port Harcourt to the factory location. The quality of this raw material, how can you attest to the quality?
It's actually, we believe it can be improved. It's still not medical grade, so we are forced to buy from abroad for the time being, but as Mr. Zubayr said, we're in talks with them to hopefully have them produce medical grade polyethylene and polypropylene. It's not a difficult thing to do.
Because this is very important.
Exactly. I mean, considering the investment that we've done,
Absolutely.
it's only a small step for this producer to take. And it doesn't require any additional investments on their part. And when you consider the vision that we have to be the leader in Africa, I think it's only fair to expect the same from neighboring companies.
Absolutely. You see, why we are putting this question across to you is because at this point in time, no compromise should be accepted. Because when we say you are the largest syringe producing company or factory in the continent, people should expect something high. Higher quality is what you cannot compromise.
Exactly.
Mr. Zubayr, tell us, the call for the highest level of quality production of syringes. You said something that is going to produce at the European standard. This is a benchmark.
Yes.
That you must keep if you are to make a headway. You agree with me? It is a benchmark you must keep, meeting the European standard. Tell us, how prepared are you to face this task?
In May, you made a documentary for us when our engineers came back from training. When they left the country for training, they didn't have any experience with any machineries. You have to see them now. They are playing with the machines. One machine is more than $1 million. You have to see them. They are playing, stopping, changing settings, producing one thing and they don't like it and changing again. They are playing with the machines now.
Wow, this is quite interesting.
Yes, they are engineer and fast learning. They are very highly trainable. For the human capital, we have it, highest quality.
Absolutely.
We certificate them internationally. They are certificated in the plastic injection, molding, quality control, and plastic in the production.
Okay.
And machinery side, we have the highest quality in the world. Our machines are coming their best places. Injection machines come from the Austria. Packaging, printing and other machines. Some machines come from South Korea. Some machine came from Turkey. Some machine came from Italy. We combine all the highest quality together. And raw material, as my investor said, the highest quality raw material. You have to see sample of the syringes. Now we are doing test running. Clear like a glass.
Wow.
That is the standard, highest quality.
Absolutely. Now, investor, Mr. Amy, are talking about this human capacity, the 12 Nigerians that we sent to Faroe, Turkey, Istanbul, for training in various areas of specializations. Talking about injection molding, quality control, and the likes. These guys are doing marvelous works with their hands. Someone described their activities as Midas touch. Tell us, the boys, these 12 Nigerians, how are they performing right now? Mrs. Way said they are doing wonderfully well. Tell us, is there future for the boys?
Absolutely, absolutely. They're not only future for them, but for others as well, because they're going to become the teachers in no time. We're sure of it. We've seen the progress. It's mind-boggling, as Mr. Zubair said. We had engineers from Korea give them training. We had engineers from Austria give them training. And they were surprised how quickly they were picking things up and taking initiative to do things that they hadn't taught them. So we're very sure that they will be the teachers come next year.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of retraining of staff, because you need to be at the highest level at all times, training and retraining of staff, do your company, Jubilee Syringe, have any package for this?
Training of
training and training of staff.
Absolutely. We have rigorous training programs that we go through for each of our divisions, both at injection, printing, packaging. We have written tests. We have practical trainings. We go through all of that. I mean, this is the only way that this could be possible. Our vision could be realized if we have very rigorous training programs so that we can have the best of our employees.
Absolutely. Now, Mrs. Zubair, we need to know, Nigerians, Africans watching us at this point in time need to be aware of this. This investment, Jubilee Syringe Manufacturing Company, is it a government investment or a private driven investment?
Yes, sir. As His Excellency Governor mentioned this one in the commissioning day, we are 100% private investment.
100% private investment?
Yes, sir.
Now tell us the influence where government comes in.
Government, well, the policy of the industrialization must be realized. It is the only way bring the foreign investment, direct investment into the country. And as a geographically, economically, if you look, Akwa Ibom has some disadvantages. There is no big industries around the south region. But Udom Emmanuel, His Excellency, made a great job to convince the investors to come here. And he supported us, government provided land for us and security. And easy doing business, most importantly. You know, the World Bank is classifying the countries by easy doing business. Unfortunately, Nigeria is not on the high level, but I believe Akwa Ibom is on the high level of the Nigeria states.
Mr. Elia, why we pose that question across to Mr. Zubair about whose investment is this, if it is that of government or that of private investors, is because in Nigeria as a country, the being of development has been poor, how is it called this time around, maintenance culture has been the bane of growth in Nigeria as a country. And when we look at government investment, that it doesn't stand the test of time. Immediately after a government transits, the investment collapses or dies naturally.
Yes.
Now, if this is government investment, of course, people, Nigerians, Africans would say is going to be the old story. Now, but if this is a privately driven investment, now smiles will be on the lips of people watching at this point in time. So tell us, sir, Mrs. Zubair says it's a privately 100% driven investment. Now, the future of Jubilee Syringe, what are we expecting? Are we expecting to see something that will stand the test for 20, 30, 50 years, or something that when you leave, the country dies?
As Mr. Zubair said, we have a vision of becoming a medical company, not only producing syringes, but other medical devices as well. And we can only support that vision if we have a 5, 10, 15-year business plan in mind already from day one. Absolutely, we believe that this will stand the test of time. Look, I mean, government-funded investments failing is not a Nigerian problem. It's present everywhere. If you look at our home country, government-funded investments maybe not fail, but decline in value over time. So it's not a Nigerian problem, I believe. Private sector motivation is always higher than at the government level. But again, when we look at the state's support of us in this investment, it's unprecedented.
Now, still staying with you, Ms. Emia, in terms of now the industry is ready, is good to go. In terms of the market, talking about distributorship, how ready and prepared are you?
We're very prepared. We have had salespeople touring the country for the past 2 months. They've been taking pre-orders from distributors. The Nigerian market is driven by distributors. There are very little direct sales to hospitals. It exists, but very little in percentage. So we've had contact with most of the distributors, main distributors in the country. We've had preliminary orders from them. We have done our due diligence, whether they have the necessary warehouses, necessary salespeople, the good business background in the past. So we're very prepared.
That is within Nigeria.
Exactly, and in the export market, if you ask, obviously we need to get permits from the neighboring countries to export our products into those countries. They're not necessarily the same procedures as Nigeria. We've started that process. We've started going through each of the countries, identifying key market dynamics, if they're selling to distributors, if they're direct sales, how much they sell, at what price they sell. We've done all those market studies. So come 2018, our priority is obviously Nigerian market, but we're also looking hard into exporting our products.
Absolutely, because that is exactly what this will really make impact.
Exactly.
When you can get it off the shores of Nigeria.
Exactly.
Now, coming to you, the managing director, Mr. Zubair Gulabi, in terms of employment and generation, this has obviously, without any doubt, created room for employment in Nigeria, not only limited to Akwa Ibom State. Now, how far have you gone in terms of employment capacity?
Yes, sir. Our full capacity is going to be around 300, more than 300, but for now, we have around 100 people.
Presently working there?
Presently. And Nigerian employment law is saying, Nigerian Content Act is saying, every foreign investments must employ 70% of Nigerians. But my investors said, no, this is not applicable for us. we implement a policy, 90% minimum Nigerians.
90% Nigerians to be employed in this investment.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
We have to, if necessary, we have to train the Nigerians in abroad, and we will employ Nigerians instead of bringing expatriates. Let us take the Nigerians to abroad, train them, and bring it back, make it expert.
Like what
that is our policy. Yes, that is what we have now.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, and most of these 90%, of course, we are looking for community and the Akwa Ibom people. Of course, we are employing some experts from across the country in Nigeria, from Nigeria. That is our policy. We are environment-friendly company, and in human being, we are employing mostly the state's citizens. This is our policy of employment.
Absolutely. Remember, the program is still for the love of Nigeria, of course. This is a Nigeria investment. This investment is here for the people of Nigeria to benefit. And of course, Nigerians have been clamoring, calling on their government to bring investment into the country so as to better the lot of the people. And of course, in our Akwa State, this has been a reality. 2 years on of the present administration under His Excellency Mr. Emmanuel, investment is trickling left, right, and center in the state. And of course, his campaign a slogan where he talked about industrialization has become a reality. So we can say on very good authority that in Akwa State, yes, there is industry beginning to spring up left, right, and center. And of course, this is a cherry news for Nigeria as a country. This is a cherry news for Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa. And of course, this is also the very big blow to the international market, where Nigerians before now has been importing goods, syringes, and now this is no longer going to be the case as the coming in of Jubilee Switch. Now let's go on a short break at this point in time. When we return, the program for the love of Nigeria continues. And of course, during this short break, we'll bring to you the sound, sight, and of course, pomp pageantry that fuel the commissioning of Jubilee Switch Manufacturing Company by His Excellency Professor Yemi Osibanjo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Stay tuned with me.
Your Excellency, sir, we are bringing you here today to commission this landmark project for Nigeria. We've noted that Nigeria today, with about 170 million people, consume on the average 6 billion syringes every year, and 100% of that imported into this country. So we made a bold step that syringe manufacturing is not rocket science. Now once we can get this in Nigeria, we can actually make do with a few other raw materials. We can have syringes in highest quality. With our brothers, investors in Europe, who are standing quite close to you, they decided to make this 100% private investment. And when they started, of course, a whole lot of people were down. How come during the session, people can come to invest in Nigeria? How would they repatriate? I told them we have a very solid economy. We will look to making the environment for investors very economic. And that economic shared by you. That informed that when they completed the assurances that you are the chairman of the National Economic Council, that the investment itself I promise that I will appeal to you to come and commission this factory and also reinstate their hope and their confidence in Nigeria. And that's what we are going to do. Initially, they will start with 400 million cities, and within 6 months, already 1 million cities. Our hope is that within the next 5 years, this should be as much as 4 billion cities. And also hope that, as you hear, sir, that one of the agenda items that we have in the next elections will be issues that will protect not just this syringe factory, but other consumables of medical, because 170 million people certainly within our whole of with this, sir, we have the pleasure and honor in inviting you to commission this factory to the glory of God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit as one of the events to mark 30 years of our state. And we always say that 30 is an impactful number. This is one of the ways that by throwing your chairmanship of the national economy, you're creating an impact on Nigeria. You're creating an impact on our people. And you're saving lives. And by making medical facilities available and affordable to Nigeria. You're welcome to that. You're welcome to that.
Sorry, hold on.
Let's put your hands together for him. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Go back. Hold on. Open this.
Jubilee Syringe Manufacturing Company, was built during the administration of His Excellency Mr. Udom Emmanuel, Governor of Akwa Ibom State, and commissioned by His Excellency Professor Yemi Osibanjo, Senior Administrator.
I'm impressed by them, and I'm honest about it. Whatever is not good, I will say it's not good, but this is a very good, bold step and very innovative, and it's going to serve foreign exchange, and it's going to employ Akwa Ibom people. So I appreciate it.
So what is your assessment and your impression with look at the magnitude of investment in Akwa Ibom?
Yeah, it's very commendable, and I must say, but I think we'll need to know the shareholding structure, how much is the private investment, how much is the state investment, how much do our Akwa Ibom people, Nigerians buying into it, and who really owns it. So, but this is very, very impressive.
It's very impressive. I'm encouraged by it, and it's consistent with what we are trying. It's very impressive, and I'm encouraged by it. And it's consistent with what we're trying to do with the economic recovery and growth plan. It is to open up the way for the private sector. So I'm very happy, I'm thrilled by what is going on here and by what I have seen. It's a very impressive factor. Thank you.
I told you that I was looking at Akwa Ibom like President Adams of the 16th president of America looked at America. And he said, I will study politics and war, so that my people will have the freedom to engage in commerce and industry. And that the next generation must engage in commerce and industry so that my grandchildren will have the prosperity to study literature and arts. So when I took over Akwa Ibom, I had to study politics of war against marginalization, politics of war against illiteracy. I had to war against decayed infrastructure or lack of infrastructure. That was why I undertook massive infrastructural renaissance. And that was why I also had to war against the perception of Akwa Ibom as an industry for house boys and house girls. And so I declared a free and compulsory education and built the additional university and brought in the Federal Polytechnic through the grace of the federal government. And at the end, we had over 1.9 million people at the basic education level. And of course, the totality of it all is that we now prepared the state with over 2,500 kilometers of road, with flyovers, with 37 brand new bridges completed and commissioned, and so many ongoing projects. They, of course, to prepare the state for what? For the next stage, which is commerce and industry. And so I had to bring in somebody who was going to be capable of doing that. And so I told you guys when we were doing the succession plan that I've laid the foundation for a skyscraper. I cannot bring in a quack to come and build a bungalow. And so you have seen today that that decision was right. Yes, I was that what you may call the man who led the way for John the Baptist. But the reality is that the vision has continued. It's a building block. That's how a nation is. You come in, you do your best, your successor does his best, and at the end, you have a developed society.
Nigeria 57, with what we are seeing in this state, what's the future of this country?
The future of this country lies in Akwa Ibom. Akwa Ibom will lead Nigeria to the promised land. And that was why the first commissioned Nigerian Army officer was Wellington Bassey. Akwa Ibom has always been the first. The first man to lead a country in the economic sphere, Dr. Clement Ison, was from this place. And he was able to lead the Central Bank of Nigeria for 3 years without borrowing a penny or $1 in a war-torn economy, because he brought in strategies and innovations. So even in a period of recession, you've seen what His Excellency Governor Odo Emmanuel has been able to do by using his connections within the banking industry and the diaspora to attract investors to the state. And today, the state is now beginning to have an alternative. We met a civil service state when we came out of Cross River State. And of course, everybody was a civil servant, and there was nothing on ground. So the IGR was very low, only from payee. And so employment opportunities were almost zero outside the civil service or outside ExxonMobil. But now we are creating employment opportunities, and our white children are becoming entrepreneurs. And of course, with the level of literacy, you will notice something, that even the syndrome of witchcraft and all those things will totally reduce. And that, you remember? Yes, of course, people used to say, oh, they kill witches, they do this. And I said, what are you talking about? You used to hear about, when I appeared on CNN, I said, you heard about the witch of Endor and all those things in Britain in the 16th century. Those things happened because of their level of education at that time. That the moment we raise the literacy level of Akwa Ibom people to a level where everybody knows is right from is wrong, you will know that yes, if you hear an hour shouting in the night, it doesn't mean that is a witch. And that is the aspect of it. We are now bringing light to the people. I'm excited about what has happened here, and I hope you all are, because the reality is that when God gives you an opportunity to preside over the affairs of people, you must leave them better than you met them.
Welcome back to the program for the Love of Nigeria. Remember, my name is Godwin Akban. Of course, you saw the sound-side attractions, pomp pageantry that greeted the commissioning of this huge investment. When I call it huge investment, going through what you've seen, I'm sure you'll agree with me that this is one investment that has put smiles on the faces of the people, even you that is watching us at this point in time. Now, before we continue on what you are saying today, Mr. Zuberi, who has been the managing director, as a sample, even though you've seen one during the production of course, the production of the machine. Mr. Zuberi is going to show you a sample. Now, let the people see the sample of Jubilee syringe.
Okay, this is our first production in Jubilee syringe factory in our campus. You can see the GSM logo at the back. Let me open it.
That's okay. That's okay.
This is 5 milliliter syringes.
It's also inscripted here.
Yes.
Jubilee syringe.
Yes.
Okay, I can see
Yes.
GSM.
GSM logo is there also. And packaging. It looks very small, but it requires big investments
Absolutely.
to have this.
To have this done.
Maybe 5 grams of device, but tons of money, tons of machineries, and human works efforts spent to get this one. What I was talking about, the clarity.
Okay.
See, it is like a glass. That is the determining the quality. What my investors were saying, high quality, European standards.
Let me also have the honor of touching it.
Yes, please.
I can say emphatically that even though I hardly use syringe, because I hardly get sick, but this group is so beautiful. With this, somebody can even think of getting sick, so that this can be used on him or her. That was on the night time anyway, but you will agree with me that this came from the stable of a Jubilee syringe manufacturing company here in Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria to be precise. This is nowhere else than sub-Saharan Africa, Nigeria. Now, this is quite mind-blowing. This is also the needle that is used for the syringe. Now, you heard what the president said. I also watched you when you were telling the people how this thing started. And of course, the encomium that was poured on you and of course your management team. How excited are you watching what the president said about this thing?
Yes, sir. We are excited to having the vice president and all the people from the state level and the federal level and the traditional rulers, paramount rulers around, village heads. Vice President said this is a smart investment. Yes, investment can be smart, but it must be sustainable. Development comes with sustainable investment and sustainable production. Yeah, that is what we were talking about, the vision for next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. This is our sustainable plan. Our workers, we want them retire from our factory 35 years, next after 35 years. Get them old in the factory. Get them old in that our village. Let their children start working with us. This is vision of sustainable development. I hope and we are working very hard to achieve this sustainability. That is all I want to say.
Now, I want to say that is your parting shot for today. That's your parting shot. Now, before we let you go, Mr. Emir, tell us your parting shot. This is wonderful. You've seen the final production, and of course, medical consumable. Of course, tell us the parting shot.
Absolutely. We were honored to have His Excellency Professor Osibanjo and His Excellency Udom Emmanuel come to our commissioning. And now our homework starts. Our work starts now to make sure they know that their efforts and support are not in vain, and we're here for the long term. Our employees have placed their trust in us, and we will show them that our vision can be realized in a short amount of time.
Okay, that is it. We are very sure that our vision can be realized in a very short while. Now, for people that are watching you right about now who wants to get the contact of this industry and of course the location, do you have any website or anything you can tell them where they can hook up and of course get to know and follow up the activities that is happening in case they want to come in and partner? Sure,
Mr. Zubair is probably the right contact, and our address is online, jubileesyringe.com. We're looking forward to speaking to them.
Okay. Now, this is where we draw the curtain. Having heard from the horse's mouth, the managing director of Jubilee Syringe Manufacturing Company, Mr. Zubair Gulabi, a Turkish-born businessman, and of course, Mr. Emir, who is also a huge investor coming into Jubilee Syringe. Of course, you've heard from him. You've heard about the standard of Jubilee Syringe. Of course, you've also heard that works are ongoing where people are getting to be informed. The marketers are everywhere in the country. Negotiations have started on how to get people outside Nigeria, shores of Nigeria, come in to be part of this huge stuff by also patronizing this company. I'm sure I'm sharing your sentiment. Of course, this is exactly what we've been craving for, we're clamoring for, we're yearning for. It is right here. Now, until we come your way next week, of course, we're another interesting edition of this program for the love of Nigeria. We enjoy you to keep watching the program for the love of Nigeria. And remember, love Nigeria. This is your country. I remain Godwin